What's the difference between willful ignorance and stupidity? Well, that's assuming a lot. That's assuming that I believe willful ignorance is a thing. Let's come back to that real quick. First, let's talk about let's to define this distinction. Let's talk about ignorance. What ignorance is. In no uncertain terms, ignorance is not knowing. It is the not knowing of information. Contrasted with stupidity, which is knowing information, but taking unwise action despite that, or maybe in spite of that. Right? So if I'm visually impaired and I walk off of a cliff to my demise, you wouldn't say that I was stupid. You might say I was ignorant of the fact that there was a cliff there, but you certainly wouldn't say that my action was stupid. But if I walked off that cliff and I knew perfectly well that it was there in whatever way that I knew it and was injured, you wouldn't say that I was ignorant. You say that was sure stupid, Damon. And so let's talk about willful ignorance. It's built on this idea of not knowing and the ways in which we apply not knowing. Now, for a long time, I've held the opinion that willful ignorance is simply misattributed ignorance or stupidity. And as I started working on drafts for this video, I was able to think of a couple of exceptions that punched holes in my preconceived notions about willful ignorance. And so it seems that, at least as far as I know, willful ignorance is a thing. Unlike ignorance, which is the not knowing, willful ignorance introduces a level of knowing with a choice to not know more. So a couple of examples that come to mind that make defining this interesting. If you were walking down a country road, I don't know why it has to be a country road, but I like this. It's desolate. And you came upon a large fence with a sign on it that says, "Danger, wild animals inside." Now, if you climbed over the fence to go investigate and find out exactly what kind of live animals these were and you were attacked, somebody would probably say, well, that was pretty stupid. But if you decided that the sign was good enough, the idea that there was something in there that you don't exactly know what it is, but it's enough to know that it's a wild animal and that someone has put a sign that says danger, you're going to apply a wise sort of willful ignorance to the situation. I need to know more information than what I currently know to know it's not worth going in there. Okay, well, that was pretty wise of you to do that. The other scenario that I thought of was, imagine that you've made a new friend recently. Get along really well. Tell all the same jokes or laugh at the same jokes. You like the same movies. Really enjoy each other's time together. You're hanging out with this friend, enjoying their time, and then one day, another friend comes to you and says, "Hey, you know that new pal you have?" "Yeah." "Did you know that he just got out of a maximum security prison?" And you're like, well, people spend time in prison. They pay their price, their debt to society, and they get out, and we can still be friends. And your friend says, "Yeah, well, that's the thing. Your new pal wasn't released. He escaped. He only served like 6 hours of a lifetime sentence." As implausible as this scenario is, if you applied a willful ignorance to knowing more about what's going on here, I think most people would say that's not very wise. This could be a dangerous person. So, the application of willful ignorance is to know something about something and decide that knowing more isn't in your best or preferred interests at this time. You're choosing to stop the flow of knowledge. Now, we can further assert that in some situations, that's just downright stupid. Right? Somebody who could be a danger to you that you don't want to know more about, you just want to go on having your friendship. I think most people would say, well, that's pretty stupid. They might use a word like foolish, but they would mean you have enough information to know that knowing more information would be prudent, and you're choosing not to know it. Likewise, and in the situation where the fence has this sign that says warning, wild animals inside, and you decide, I don't need to satiate my curiosity about how big the fangs and claws are on these things. Nobody's going to tell you that that was a stupid choice to not climb the fence. And so what's interesting about willful ignorance as opposed to stupidity is, in both cases, we know that there's a kind of knowledge on the table. But when somebody does something that's stupid, that we feel is stupid, we feel they had ample information to make a better choice. The jury's out on willful ignorance. I imagine that it's going to come down to subjective examples in each case, and we're never really. We're going to have a hard time knowing what exactly it is that any one of us knows in a given scenario. We could tell you what we knew, but maybe we're lying. Maybe we knew more, and we're choosing to hide it. So it's going to be really hard to know exactly, whether somebody's applying willful ignorance or stupidity. As a coach, this matters to me for when somebody surfaces the notion that I did this thing and it was really stupid of me. It matters to me, and I think it matters to people, to sort out the difference between that which was a stupid action and that which was simply ignorant, whether it's a kind of willful ignorance or just good old-fashioned not knowing. Let me add a quick thought about ignorance that I think will be valuable here. We tend to think of ignorance as a pejorative. That person's ignorant, these people are ignorant. The fact is that while we can all be really stupid sometimes, we're all ignorant in a really obvious way. The library of possible knowledge in the world, in the universe, is probably 99% filled with information that even if we had enough brain space to hold all that information, the amount of time it would take to learn it with our current technology, I don't know, I guess I could imagine a future where we have a sort of matrix level data upload system, but with our current tech, knowing all the knowable information gets us maybe to a fraction of a percentage of what's knowable. So you're looking at almost 100% of what is potentially knowable. We don't know. We don't know it as a species. We don't know it as individuals. Our most educated people don't likely even hit the 1% mark. Now, there's no way to know that for sure. But if you consider everything we don't know just about our own ocean, and we know 5% of it, our own planet, our bodies, the microscopic level, you expand out into this endless universe where what we know barely tickles the surface of the cellophane coating on the window glass of all that's knowable. It's easy to imagine that it's a really big number. So there's nothing wrong, in my esteem, of being ignorant. We're all ignorant. Probably the most concerning thing about ignorance is not recognizing when we are ignorant of the facts. I don't know. I don't know is perfectly acceptable. I don't always have to know. I take comfort in not knowing. The longer I don't know, the better chance I have of staying curious about anything. And by my math, we should all be walking around curious all the damn time.